If you're joining us on the live stream, we have been talking all week about hydrogen versus electrification. We don't all agree on everything, but one thing we can all agree on is that hydrogen is only going to be as effective as the infrastructure. And that is the topic of our next keynote. It is a very special keynote because it comes from our sponsor, Air Products, but it's special for another reason too, because our next speaker is also from Florida. So please give a very warm main stage welcome to Caroline Stancell of Air Products.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning to everyone that is joining us online at various locations around the world. I'm really pleased to be here today. I think after 2 years of Corona and virtual meetings, it's just been wonderful to be able to meet with people face to face. And of course, it's been excellent to see the actual real vehicles, the heavy-duty vehicles that are now coming to market that will be emission-free. You can't quite get the same impression when you're looking at those things on a video screen. You really need to get up close and touch them. So my name, as the introduction said, is Caroline Stancell. I joined Air Products in 1989, and I've spent most of my career working in and around hydrogen. With the new growth of hydrogen as a potential energy source, I've moved to the position of General Manager for Hydrogen for Mobility in Europe and Africa, and that makes me responsible for developing the business that will eventually fuel the hydrogen fuel cell trucks and vehicles for Air Products here in Europe. In particular, I'm responsible for building out the supply chain that will make sure that molecules are available at the point of use where we need them to refuel and supply vehicles. Air Products is a worldwide industrial gas company, one of the largest. We've been in operation for over 80 years, and we have many, many years of experience, actually over 60 years of experience of supplying hydrogen to customers, both large and small, in countries around the world, thousands of customers. We are the world's largest hydrogen producer. Today, we produce about 8,000 tons a day of hydrogen. That hydrogen today is mostly gray, but everything is changing. Over the years, we have developed a huge amount of know-how and expertise around how to handle hydrogen safely and how to produce it reliably in order to ensure continuous availability in operations. When I started my career and we talked about hydrogen transport, we were really talking about space travel. And goodness, that's changed. If you walk around the exhibition today, you'll see many hydrogen fuel cell trucks and hydrogen fuel cell buses. And this needs to happen. Today, transport, if you look at the total CO2 emissions from transport in the European Union, it makes up 29% of our total carbon dioxide emissions. If we are to achieve our decarbonization targets, and we must achieve them, we have to find a way to decarbonize transport. That means that the vehicles that we see on stands today, the hydrogen fuel cell buses, the hydrogen fuel cell trucks, they need to become commonplace. We all need to drive them, we need to ride in them, we need to use them to deliver our goods. And of course, we're going to need to fuel them. And in order to fuel them, we're going to need infrastructure. So if we need infrastructure to fuel them, that raises the question of what does this infrastructure need to be like? And that means there's two questions. The first one is, what does it need to look like? And the second one is, will it be available on time? The first question is actually very easy to answer, because quite frankly, we have a very flexible, convenient fueling network today. I think we could all agree that if we're going to build a fueling network, what we build would be not unlike what we have today with fossil fuels. It's flexible, it's convenient. So that means that we need a hydrogen fueling network across Europe that is reliable, that is dependable. When you go to a fuel station, you need to know that it has fuel, and it needs to be capable of supplying large numbers of vehicles. We have that with diesel today. Of course, we don't have that yet with hydrogen. And if this network is to have its full decarbonization potential, we need to actually ensure that the hydrogen being supplied from it is either blue, low-carbon hydrogen, or better yet, green, fully renewable hydrogen. So Air Products, as the leader in world hydrogen production, is investing very heavily in the production of new low-carbon blue and green hydrogen. We have recently announced a number of hydrogen projects. There are 2 low-carbon hydrogen projects currently being developed in the Americas. The first of those is in Canada, the second in Louisiana. And we've announced 2 green hydrogen projects in Saudi Arabia and in Oman. If you add these projects together, it means that Air Products will bring approximately 3,000 tons a day of low-carbon or low-carbon and renewable hydrogen to market in the next 3 to 4 years. 3,000 tons a day of hydrogen is enough to power approximately 100,000 trucks or buses, for those of us who think in those terms. So it's not enough, but it's certainly a start in terms of providing the molecule infrastructure that is needed. And if we look at the green hydrogen project that we're developing in NEOM, it's a very unique project because it is effectively capturing renewables in a part of the world where they're available in excess and where solar and wind profiles are very favorable for renewable energy production and hydrogen production. So we're producing hydrogen there, capturing it in the form of green ammonia for export to parts of the world where it's required. Now, of course, we're sitting here in Europe, and you could ask the question, well, all 4 of these projects are outside of Europe. Why is that? And the reason for that is that because for the reasonable future, Europe is likely to have an energy shortage supply situation. The EU has foreseen that. There's been a lot of discussion around it, and that's why the Repower EU, the Green Deal, and the European Hydrogen Strategy all set targets for both domestic renewable hydrogen production as well as imported renewable hydrogen production. The EU is targeting to have 40 gigawatts or 10 million tons a year of each sort of renewable hydrogen production, both domestic and imported, by 2030. So, this is an example of where hydrogen is being produced in a part of the world where it's available in excess, but of course we need to get it here, where we actually need it in Northern Europe to decarbonize our processes. So we have also announced recently 2 hydrogen import terminals in the north of Europe. The first of these terminals, located in the UK, in Immingham in the north, is being developed in conjunction with associated British ports. The second terminal, which is located in Rotterdam, is being developed in conjunction with Gunvor Petroleum. Each of these terminals will establish in Europe the full infrastructure that is required to import large quantities of renewable energy in order to support our decarbonization. At each of these terminals, there'll be a very large storage tank which will store the imported renewable energy in the form of green ammonia. And this stored renewable energy is unique. It's unique because it's available on demand. So you'll be able to use it irregardless of what the local weather conditions are. And as such, it's not only a supplement to European domestic hydrogen production capacity, but it's also a complement to European hydrogen production capacity. And it will help us to ensure that molecules are available on a continuous basis for the decarbonization of fleets and of industrial processes so that we can meet our CO2 emissions reductions targets. So that was quite a bit on molecules, and those molecules will certainly be available by 2030. They will be available in large scale. So now what we need to stop and switch and focus on is the refueling network. So it's great to have molecules available in a central location, but we'll actually need to have them available distributed to refueling points around Europe. So Air Products, again, has a very long history in setting up hydrogen refueling systems. To date, we have executed more than 250 hydrogen refueling projects in more than 20 countries around the world. We have more than 50 patents around hydrogen refueling. We're very experienced in terms of making sure that the refueling infrastructure is safe and reliable. And of course, as we start to think about what we need to support our full-scale fleet decarbonization, it needs to be safe and reliable, but it also needs to be large-scale. And so we're very focused on bringing to market the large-scale, reliable types of hydrogen refueling networks that we'll need in order to support full-scale truck deployments across Europe. A couple of examples, because the first large-scale facilities are actually beginning in the bus sector, simply because hydrogen fuel cell buses are available today. So the first of the projects that we're executing that I'd like to discuss, very close to us here, is actually in Hürth in Germany. This is the second hydrogen refueling station that we are executing for the Hürth municipality, meant to supply their buses as that municipality works through the progressive decarbonization of their total bus fleet. The second project that I'd like to highlight is one that we're executing for the Go-Ahead bus group in Crawley, near Gatwick Airport in the UK. This is a hydrogen refueling system that, when it comes on stream early next year, will be the largest European bus deployment to date. And it will supply fuel on a regular basis, a continuous basis, to more than 54 buses. It is actually based on liquid hydrogen fueling technology, which gives us the ability to develop a refueling system that is both highly reliable and has a small footprint. That refueling system is also very scalable. So while it will start supplying 54 of the buses based at that depot location, the equipment being installed is capable of supporting the full depot conversion of more than 140 buses. So the liquid hydrogen fueling technology really allows us to build reliable, dependable stations that have a small footprint. So switching from buses to trucks, we're also in the process of developing a truck refueling station in Rotterdam, in the Botlek port area. This refueling station will be public access and is, again, a very high-capacity station capable of truck refueling. Finally, we've announced the development of another public access fueling station geared towards heavy-duty vehicles in Tarragona. Of course, this is only the beginning, and there are many more to come, as we will need a set of fueling stations rolled out across Europe that is at the proper distances as specified in the European Alternative Fuels Infrastructure Directive. So, there's a lot that's happening. Molecules will be available. The fuel stations are coming. We have all of the technology that we need in order to support the hydrogen fuel cell deployment. But if we want it to be ready in time, we only have 3 to 4 years. So we really need to act now. The European Union has specified that it wants to have 40 gigawatts or 10 million tons a year of domestic hydrogen production. It also wants to have 40 gigawatts or 10 million tons per year of imported renewable hydrogen production by 2030. If we're to achieve those targets, then there are 3 things that we need legislators to do. The first thing is that we really need for legislators to focus on stimulating demand. We need green hydrogen demand to go from virtually 0 today to 80 gigawatts by 2030. That means many hydrogen buses, many hydrogen trucks, and the conversion of today's industrial processes from gray to green hydrogen. If we want that demand to be in place, we need to act quickly. Green hydrogen is a new supply chain. It's a new market. Fossil fuels are very well established. There is a big supply chain network. They have benefited from numerous subsidies, and they don't bear anywhere near the cost of their detrimental environmental impact. Renewable hydrogen will be at a price premium to fossil fuels. So if we're to achieve the 80 gigawatts of use by 2030, we need regulators to act now. It needs to, would-be hydrogen users need either the imperative to use renewable hydrogen or an incentive to use it, or preferably both. It kind of is stating the obvious, but green hydrogen brings no environmental benefits unless it is used. We have to stimulate demand, and we need to do that now. The second thing that we really need regulators to focus on is a robust certification system for hydrogen. We are all talking about bringing renewable or low-carbon hydrogen to market in order to obtain the decarbonization benefits that we want to obtain. For the users to be confident that the hydrogen molecule that they're using meets the high standards that we all want these molecules to meet, we need a very robust certification system. It needs to be transparent, and it needs to be understandable so that people can be confident that the hydrogen that they're buying meets the right criteria. We also need for the hydrogen that is produced that qualifies to the appropriate standards to count towards an individual nation's renewable energy obligations. The third thing that we need from regulators is to make sure that there is a level playing field between both domestically produced and imported renewable hydrogen. Supporting one over the other will lead to market distortions, inefficiencies, wasted capital, and ultimately higher hydrogen costs. We need to support both the development of renewable and imported hydrogen, and we need to support them equally. So with this talk on infrastructure, I now want to step back to focus a little bit more on sustainability, and in particular, Air Products' sustainability journey. We have recently announced a new increased sustainability goal as a company, where we have committed to reduce our Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 carbon emissions by 30% by 2030. We have also committed to reach net zero by 2050. This means that we as a company need to look at decarbonizing absolutely all of our activities, and of course, the decarbonization of our fleet is an important part of these programs. So we operate a large fleet around the world, delivering industrial gases to hundreds of thousands of customers. We need to decarbonize that fleet by 2030. And that gives us a fairly unique position. We are both a hydrogen infrastructure provider, but we are also a fleet hydrogen user. And we want to use that insight and combine it with others here, OEMs, other fleet operators, so that we can all work together to ensure that the timing of vehicles and fueling stations coincides, so that we can have the network that we need to support full-scale hydrogen fuel cell rollouts in 2026. So I invite all of you to come and see us at our stand. We'd love to continue the conversation around hydrogen fueling and hydrogen infrastructure. We're based in Hall 24, stand C21. We also have, for anyone that is interested and is physically at the conference today, a hydrogen refueling system that you can see. It is outside of Hall C23 and is there available, actually fueling some of the hydrogen fuel cell vehicles that are at the show today. So thank you very much. I'll leave you with a very short video. So Hall 24, stand C21, and thank you very much for coming and listening today.
Thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you.
Florida represent. That is Hall 23 to see the display. Check that out during the lunch break, which is coming up in a short while. Our next presentation is going to begin in 15 minutes. We're calling this our inspirational presentation about global digitization in logistics. Stick around for that.